My name is Dave. Another question for the rabbi. Where does anti-Semitism really come from? And will we ever be able to live in peace with our nations?
The $64,000 question. Dave, you asked it. Where does anti-Semitism come from? Now, you might think that anti-Semitism is no different than any other xenophobia or hatred of a different group. But in fact, it is different. All the reasons that have been given as to why Jews are almost universally loathed and hated and persecuted have the outliers where that cause doesn't exist, yet the result is the same. So Jews have been persecuted for being killers of the deicide, yet not only Christians persecute Jews. Jews have been persecuted because they're very wealthy, but Jews were also slaughtered when they were really, 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 really poor. Jews are poor, Jews are different, or when the same, we suffer the same fate. All the reasons that have traditionally been given as to why the Jewish people are hated don't seem to stand up to the scientific method, wherein removing the cause does not seem to remove the effect. So why, according to the Torah, Jewish people hated? So the Talmud tells us that at Mount Sinai, the word Sinai is the same word for sinna, which means hatred. The idea being that when the Jewish people received the Torah, the Almighty implanted within the entire, the rest of the world, the rest of the nations, a inexplicable hatred for the Jewish people. Now, why would you say, would the Almighty do something to us? If the Almighty loves us, we're His children. Avinu Malkeinu, we say, you're the children of God. Why would the Almighty do something so terrible, seemingly, as to cause senseless hatred from the Gentiles to the Jews? What do we benefit from it? The answer is that what defines our nation, perhaps more than anything else, is that we're different, we're distinct, we're special. So that has a lot of different names. We're called chosen people, right? We're chosen, we're different. We have a mission. We have a collective mission to be God's ambassadors to the world. We're different, we're special. On one hand, we're light to the nation. You know, Israel's always on the front page, right? For us to fulfill our mission, we have to be unique. We have to be different. Now, what happens when a Jew tries to say, you know what? I'm no different. We're like everyone else. We could be citizens of the world. We could be as French as the French and as German as the Germans. We'll be no different. We won't marry Jewish. We won't eat Jewish. We won't dress Jewish. We'll be nothing. Our prayers will be converted into German. We won't talk about going back to Jerusalem. We'll drop the nationalistic element to our nation. We'll have synagogue on Sundays. The rabbis will dress like priests. What happens to that? There is a tremendous risk of the entire mission of the Jewish people, which is the most important mission in all of humanity. All that is at risk. So when the Jewish people try to be like everyone else, they try to lose the special flavor of a distinct nation. Hein am levadad yishkon. When we try to lose that, the Almighty implants within the Gentiles this inexplicable yearning, desire, passion to tell the Jews you're different. In 1844 in Brunswick, Germany, there was a convention where the members of the convention formally repudiated many of the very fundamental tenets of the Torah. And there they declared that Jews allowed to marry a Gentile, no problem. Jews allowed to eat non-kosher, fine and dandy. All that makes us special was cast away. And from now on, argued the perpetrators, organizers of that convention, from now on, we're no different. And at the time, there was a young observer by the name of Rabbi Israel Salanter who declared the Jews have repudiated, have rejected the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. They have said we are no different. There's going to come a time where the Gentiles themselves are going to reestablish the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. What he essentially was conveying, that there is a reality that spans centuries, wherein when a Jew tries to lose their distinct nature, the Gentiles themselves will compel that upon the Jews in most likely a less wholesome and vibrant and pleasureful way than if the Jews maintained their distinct nature on their own. And in fact, a mere 90 years later, the Nuremberg laws once again reestablished the laws of the Shulchan Aruch, of the Jewish code of law. So that has been the traditional response as to answer your question, that it is a safety mechanism, a safety gap to ensure that the Jewish people remain distinct. Thus, we Jews have a choice. We can either be distinct, we can either be a light to the nation, we can either be a model society, we can be the moral guardians of the world, we could teach the world about good and evil, we could be ambassadors of the Almighty to humanity, we'll be distinct, we'll be special, but will be highly regarded. That's the Jewish people in their most ideal sense. And in fact, we were there once, the times of David and Solomon, the heyday of the Jewish people, where they were the model for the world. That was a peaceful time. It was 80 years, very short in the big picture, but that was a time where everyone wanted to join us. Think about that. Everyone, the entire world wanted to be Jewish. Right? We had peace. We had the full manifestation of this great nation, this Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. We were there, and hopefully we'll get back there. That's our choice on one hand. On the other hand, should we choose to renege upon our pledges to be God's people, to be special, to be the people that teaches the world about God, that brings morality to humanity? If we want to renege, we want to be no different, you know what? We'll still be distinct. But it won't be a result of our own decisions. It'll be because the Gentiles slap the yellow star on our chest and say, you're a Jew, you're a dirty Jew. It's an unfortunate reality. It's not fun to hear. It's not fun to say. It's not fun. But this has kept us Jewish. We've been an entire throughout our entire history, in a micronation, tiny, always a couple million here, and constantly under threat of existential destruction. Always. What keeps us alive? What keeps us together? What keeps us unified? On the Torah on one hand, the Torah is the commonality that all Jews share. It's cross culture, cross borders, cross languages. On one hand, of course, but also societally, socially, culturally, community of being united as a nation and not straying too far, not trying to be too much like the Gentiles. And what happens? Should we tiptoe a little bit too close to that boundary? We're going to feel a jolt and we're going to be repelled by the Gentiles themselves. It's very unfortunate, it's very sad, and our history is littered with pogroms, with blood libels, with accusations, with auto-da-fés, with inquisition, persecution, prosecution, marginalization of every kind, socially, economically, physically, and it's very sad. And it's a very hard question to absorb and to feel comfortable with. But according to our philosophy, that's the reason. The Almighty said this: the only way to ensure that we're going to be the eternal nation is we have to remain distinct. And if we choose to stray away from that mission, from that sacred goal, the Gentiles are going to remind us of that, and it's not going to be pleasurable. It might perhaps be very painful. So that's the answer to your question, Dave. Keep them coming. Thank you all for listening, and please send us an email, asktherabbi@torchweb.org, if you would like to have your question broadcast to humanity.